car was all black with the silver on it. It looked like Earnhardt's car, and our suits were those suits.
Yeah.
And I went from just this burger flipper at Skip Barber
yeah, to the big time. To the big time.
Porsches, to a phone call that almost lost my ride before I ever even got it, to, big time.
My man, Kelly, what's happening?
What's going on, Paul? How are you, buddy?
I'm good. I haven't seen
It's been about 2 months since I've seen you.
I know, it's been a minute. Okay,
Yeah.
well, I got to start off with the stats. I always start off with the stats. And 3 times Le Mans second place for you, 2 times finished third at Le Mans. You've got
One
Just time?
one.
Okay.
Yep.
I think I came across, if the results are accurate, you're a hard guy to find on the internet for some reason.
Oh, you can't find me.
Yeah, I know. You're like
I don't
you're
exist.
like the international man of mystery. But I kind of counted up 21 GT wins across American Le Mans and Grand Am.
That's correct.
Yes, and just a longtime GM factory driver, and started out your car racing career. It seems like you started out in Porsches.
Well, it started out in off-road racing in Southern Nevada.
Yeah, I was going to go there. I mean, it really started in dirt bikes. You started off playing around with dirt bikes, which is what I did when I was a kid. Yeah. My dad got me a dirt bike, and I was showing it off to a friend in my garage one time and started it up, and it took off across the room and slammed into the garage door, and my mom took it away. So the next thing was a go-kart. But tell me, I know you're a huge motocross fan, and tell me about your early days of racing.
Well, I started racing when I was about 7 or 8. I started riding motorcycles when I was 5 with my dad. We'd go off to Mexico every weekend. We'd go to the desert, and I just loved it so much. And my first experience with racing was what they call enduro and desert and hare and hound racing, where you race across the desert. And some of the enduro stuff is timed events where you have to make it. You can't get there too quickly. You can't get there too late, and you make points and you get score for that. So it's kind of like rally racing or stages. And then I got into motocross and loved motocross and ran 125, 250, open class, 500 class on Yamaha 490s and stuff like that. And all that time I wanted to race off-road, and my dad and I built an off-road car and went racing with that. And, we did okay, but the equipment that we were racing against was far superior. But we were running Class 2 Unlimited, which in today's day, that's like a trophy truck. But back then, it wasn't quite that exciting. But we did good. And then a guy that you might have heard of a long, long time ago named Drino Miller. He was the first guy to win the Baja 1000 solo, and he made his own single-seater and cut the time by 10 hours.
Oh, wow.
And he raced at Indy. He ran Danny and Gaius, all that stuff, racing teams. And he ended up at Porsche. He's a brainiac. And he told me one day we were having dinner, and he said, if you want to become a race car driver, you can't do anything in this off-road stuff. You got to go to a racing school. And if they tell you you're good, then you got to get sponsorship and proceed from there and try to be a race car driver.
Hey, it's Paul Tracy. Quick heads up for all you hardcore racing fans. Racer's got a killer deal right now. Stream the best in motorsports with Racer Plus and get a full year of Racer Magazine. 6 badass collectible issues, all bundled and discounted. We're talking live WRC, Dakar, Crandon Off-Road, DTM, British Touring Cars, Le Mans, World Superbike, and even the Isle of Man TT, all in one place. Hit up racer.com/bundle and fuel up on all the best racing from around the world. That's racer.com/bundle. So in the beginning, when you were racing motocross, what years when you were racing 125s, 250s, was that in California? And were you racing against any guys that are big name guys? Or was it just local stuff?
No big name guys. It was all local stuff, CMC, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Up in the high desert, down in Carlsbad. I used to race on the big Grand Prix track. It was all amateur, no pro.
Yeah.
Made it to expert. Ran 125. We're talking 93.
I mean, I would imagine some pros showed up just for practice once in a while, right?
Yeah, so that's really funny. So one night I'm racing at Ascot, and Brock Glover showed up
Yeah.
and was racing, and I'm just like, dude, this guy's the man. It's like we were just all giddy, and I won my race that night in intermediate, and he just went out there and smoked everybody. I think he was just doing some testing or whatever in the pro class, and just watching his riding style. Ironically, zip forward 5-6 years later, I'm an instructor at the Skip Barber Racing School, and Brock comes to the school.
Yeah.
And I was the lead instructor, and that's how we became friends. But I was just like, telling him these stories, and he's like, yeah, I don't remember. I don't even know who you're talking about. I was just such a little peon.
This podcast is brought to you by Racer and Racer.com, the leading motorsports news and information source in North America. With special thanks to trusted silver and gold trading partner and studio sponsor ITM Trading and Scottsdale-based Apex Motor Club. I'm a member there. It's a membership-only private track racing community right here in Phoenix. If you want to go racing, that's the place to be. So how did that jump happen for, like, I was going to get there, but how did it jump from motocross, obviously a natural progression with your dad, you build an off-road car, you're racing desert, going down to Mexico, and then all of a sudden you're the lead instructor at Skip Barber in open wheel stuff. How did you make that transition from there to there, like to become an instructor? Because you would think you'd have to have some open wheel racing experience before they'd let you be an instructor.
Yeah, so I became friends when I went out so Drino Miller told me to go to racing school. I went to the closest one, the Jim Russell Racing School at Riverside, and got to know all the guys out there, and they're all friendly. Well, that program went under. That Jim Russell Racing School went under.
Yeah.
And Skip Barber was coming to the West Coast, and they were looking to try out instructors. And I said, I want to try out. And so down in San Diego Stadium, I tried out in BMWs and was driving sideways and all that kind of stuff. And then, at the same time, I was trying to race cars and like every instructor does at Skip Barber. But long story short, I was with Skip Barber for roughly 15, 16 years. I was a lead instructor for 11. I was a test driver for their racing school or their race series for 11 years. So I was in race cars more than anybody, in and out of every, the same cars, but belts, anywhere from 30 to 40 cars a day, clicking off laps, making adjustments, learning the craft of setting up a car, what's too fast, what's too outside handling, all that kind of stuff. And I think back in 95, 96, a bunch of the Skip Barber Racing School instructors, me, Chris Wilson, a guy named Rich Rutherford, we ended up getting a ride in a street stock car down at Sebring for the 12-hour in the Firestone Firehawk series.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do what you did. I wanted to go to Atlantic and then IndyCar. And I'm sure you probably actually wanted to go F1 at one time.
Yeah, I tested an F1, but like my path was traditional. It was go-karts, Formula Ford. Then I went Formula Atlantic a little bit, and then did some Formula 3 in Europe, and then Indy Lights, and then Indy Cars. But I mean, your path was different, a little bit non-traditional. It's kind of similar to Jimmy Johnson, off-road stuff, and then he went the direction of stock cars. But I mean, you must have seen a lot of guys in that time come through the school. Was there anybody that, like, when you look at your time back then, was there anybody that comes to mind that really, like, when you saw them come through the school, you're like, holy, this guy's good?
Yeah, well, okay. There was a guy named Mark Leisner, but I don't think you remember him. Bryan Herta was a student of mine.
Yeah.
Juan Pablo was a student of mine at Sears Point. And I wasn't the lead instructor then, but it was a guy named Vic Elford, a very, very famous race car driver. And he literally said at the end of that school, this guy is the best guy he's ever seen behind a wheel. And that was Juan Pablo. And just a Skip Barber, Formula car at Sears Point. Just his the way he went about it, methodically, listening. Everything he did was just spot on. So it was pretty neat to watch. But yeah, we've had a lot of guys. We used to run a lot of the NASCAR guys through the school at Sears Point because they'd come up there to do the lapping.
Yeah.
And we'd send them out. This is a funny story. We'd send them out individually, and all of a sudden we'd be looking up from the pits up in the S's and nobody's coming down yet. And they'd all go up there and wait and turn like 6 and 7 for each other. And then they come through this S's 3 abreast. Like they couldn't, the only way that they could, cohabitate was right next to each other. Not in a line, and they're hitting each other, and there's marks on the cars. And we're like, you guys don't understand. If you hit one another, one wheel goes over the other wheel, and somebody's going in the air. Something's going to get bad. But they just couldn't. They couldn't exist without being all together on the racetrack. It was very funny. But anyway, so long story short, I ended up being a lead instructor, and then, like you said, you did Formula Fords, but I was in a Formula car, like a Formula Ford, for 11 years straight. Even while I was at Corvette.
Yeah.
When I was racing at Corvette, I'd go back. I'd never wanted to be too big for my britches. And I never wanted to be that guy that like left and didn't communicate with everybody. So the very next weekend, I'd be like at Laguna Seca or Road America or something like that, test driving.
Yeah, because the Skip Barber car was virtually like an F2000 car.
Exactly.
It had wings and, slick tires. Did it have slicks or?
Well, so what it did is it started off with radials, and then it went to slicks. And the slicks really screwed the whole program up because people flat saw a tire where we'd have to put on treads if it rained, talk about 15, 16, 17 cars, the crew having to change back and forth. When you run the radial, you have super duper slip angles. You learn cornering speed. Somebody flat spots a tire, it's not that bad. If it starts raining, you can race. So it really, really worked better. But some of the other schools went to slicks, and everybody's like, we need to be on slicks. But what they really didn't realize, the long term was much better on the radial tires.
Yeah.
But that's how I kept Paul really current behind the wheel of a race car. Like I wasn't waiting a month or 5 weeks in between, or sometimes 2 months in between a race, in the middle of summer. I was in a race car every weekend,
driving
honing the skills. Driving all the time. And so when you're in a car that has 120 horsepower versus 650 horsepower, you learn how to carry momentum, lean on the front tires. It just was a natural, and I didn't even know it was happening at the time.
So during that time, you were obviously there a long time. I know Tanner worked at, Tanner Faust worked at.
Yep.
Was he an instructor there as well? Because he was another guy, same as you, that wanted to be an open. I remember doing a TV show with him.
Yeah.
And he told me, he's like, I wanted to be an open wheel driver, and, went to the school, and then I became an instructor there and was trying to make it happen. And then I knew nothing was going to happen. And I was getting older, and people don't realize he's a lot older than he looks. He's
he looks like a teenager.
Yeah,
he's over 50, I think now. But so Tanner was after me at Skip Barber. And he honed his skills just like we all did, doing demonstration laps, probably in Vipers. It went from BMW to Vipers. We have like an autocross, and you have to give people a hot lap all sideways, just like drifting, and not hit a cone. If you hit a cone, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
And so everybody honed their skills. After when we get off work at the end of the day, we'd all get like a set of used tires and go peel down to just make our existence better when we're teaching and not look like dummies out there.
Yeah.
And so Tanner did that. His road to where he is and what he's created is unusual and different as well.
So did Townsend come through the school? Were you his instructor too? Because I know that he came through the Skip Barber.
Yeah, actually Townsend was
he
one
a
of
good
his instructors,
student, or just like, because he's not a very good listener. He's not a very good listener. He beats to his own drum.
Okay, so I remember they make us room with each other, two instructors to a room, because they got a budget and all that kind of stuff. But a couple times Tanner came through the school, and then he wanted to be an instructor, and he ran in the race series, and he did really good. I think he might have even won the series, and so he became an instructor. And he and I roomed a couple times together. He's a funny cat, man. We'd BS all the time, and and he went on in a weird way too. I mean, everybody's got a kind of a weird path, don't they?
Well, I mean, he got connected with Rockstar, and then the whole drifting thing became a phenomenon. And obviously, like you said, he was out there just sideways in a Viper, and I mean, he's good at that kind of stuff. So
he's really good at it. I remember the first time I ever saw him drive, he was on stage, and he had a cheese grater attached to the front of the car, and there was a post in the center of the stage, like just a normal stage. And he goes out there in the car with a cheese grater, and there's a piece of cheese sitting on a post, and he peels the cheese doing 360s with the cheese grater off the front of the car. I'm like, That's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
So you're at the school, you're driving. How did the first endurance opportunity come along? Because you went into Porsches, you were doing Porsche stuff, I believe, like Porsche Cup and GT3s
Well,
and things
okay,
like that.
so back to Skip Barber. So I think you remember there was what they called the Barber Saab Pro Series.
Yeah.
Okay, and it was a Saab 4-liter engine. It was their pro car, and we got deals as instructors if we could raise the money and get sponsorship. Right, can pay for that, But I ran several races and half a season, almost a full season over there. I had sponsorship from, if you remember, Maui and Sons, the surf clothing line. Yeah, they helped me out to begin with and stuff like that. And I was racing in the Barber Saab Pro Series, and after 8 races, I ran out of money.
So was that connection just because you're surfing in Southern California, just like surf guy, and you met the guy that owned it, and
Yep. They helped me out, and then I had a big crash there at the end of the back straightaway at the Glen, and just tore the car up, and I was done. So back to work at Skip Barber, and Rich Rutherford and Chris Wilson and I. That's when we got enough money together to get into the Firehawk series and did some races there. And then Chris Wilson and I went on to race the next year or two in a Honda VTEC. Well, this is not the place I wanted to be in, a front wheel drive car, hanging the front end out and understeering everywhere. But it was a start, and it got to where we were racing for free. We just had to pay our travel and not responsible for the car, to where we were getting 25% of the prize money. So I'm still working at Skip, and I'm starting to make some money driving race cars. And a friend of mine wants to go racing. I'm racing a BMW. Now I'm in the fastest class cars, and I'm at Daytona. And we raced on the Friday. And I changed my flight to watch the beginning of the 24-hour because I'd never seen it. And remember Jay Cochran?
Yeah.
I'm 2 people away from a hot dog and a beer in the beer line. My race gear's in my car in the infield. And he comes up to me and he goes, "Hey, can you take my ride in this POC Porsche? Because I'm going to go drive the Oldsmobile at Pratt & Miller." And I'm like, "What? The race is already, it's already started. And I'm just going to grab a beer and go to the airport." And I go, "Sure, but I don't even have that license." And he goes up to Mark Raffoff and he says, "Yep, tell Kelly to send everything in." We know Kel. And next thing I know, I've never even driven a Porsche in my life, a street car, nothing. And I'm all sitting on the high banks doing 175, 180 in this Porsche with no power steering, just, like this. And I was turning really fast lap times, and I ended up doing 11 hours of the whole race. I mean, I was spent jet trash. We were running as high as like 8th, and we ended up finishing like 17th with a blown engine with 20 minutes left to go.
That's a crazy story, because that would never happen now. Like that, you can't. No. If you don't do the roar before the shore, if you're not in that test 3 weeks out before the race, you can't even get in the race.
Yeah.
Now,
but yeah. So, anyways, so Porsche and this guy named Richard Ramus took note of me and asked me for Sebring to come drive their car, and I think we finished second at Sebring, and then we went and raced a couple more races, and then Porsche Motorsports got involved with a guy named Court Wagner, my friend.
Yeah,
Court, and he brought sponsorship. Yeah. And we were at Alex Job. We had Porsche Motors, Yokohama tires. We had the best stuff. And we won the 24 Hours of Daytona. And then we won Sebring. And this is where things all changed. I was only supposed to be in for the 3 long races and Petit Le Mans.
Yeah.
And a guy named, God, I'm having a brain fart. Lucas Luer, not Lucas, but the other Porsche driver. They were junior team drivers.
Yeah.
They decided this car was so good that they were going to put him in place of me, and I was out of ride. So I'm leading points in GT and all this stuff, and I'm I end up getting a Panos ride for two rides, and I'm up in Portland, Oregon, and we're driving this Panos, and it was just the GT Panos, not the prototype Panos. And it was kind of a bag of donuts. And I'm walking through the paddock, and I get this, what was it? I get a phone call from Doug Feehan. You know Doug?
Yeah. Corvette team manager. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm on my flip phone. And he goes, "Hey, are are you Kelly Collins? And I said, yeah, who's this? He goes, Doug Feehan, program manager for Corvette Racing. And I'm like, Nick, this is funny. I've never heard you say this one before, because this guy named Nick Kuhnwalder, when we were at Skip Barber, is always playing pranks on everybody. And like, he'd call up and say, hey, I'm Roger Penske. I need you to come drive the IndyCar. So it goes on and on. He goes, I don't know who this Nick guy is, but do you want to come drive our race car? And I said, Nick, where are you? And he goes, listen, you're Kelly Collins. I go, yeah. He goes, you come recommended by all these people, these journalists, photographers, everybody. And I'm calling you. And I don't know who this Nick guy is, but I'm going to give you this number to call back. And I'll never forget it. I'm not going to say it on the air, but it's GM Race Shop, the headquarters there at the 24th floor at the Ren Center. And literally, I call up and this girl answers. And she goes, GM Race Shop, and I go, oh, who are you? And I go, who are you to get Nick to would you put Nick on the line? She goes, there's no Nick here. And I go, okay, he's playing a trick. His name's Doug Feehan. Can I speak with Doug? And he comes on, he goes, hi, Doug Feehan. I go, Nick, what's going on? He goes, listen, I'm not Nick. You're Kelly Collins, right? He goes, I'm asking if you want to be in Putnam Park in 2 days, testing the Corvette with John Paul Jr. and Ron Fellows. And I don't know how much longer I can take this immediately. Like, it was like watching a comedian bomb. My armpits just go, like, oh my God, this is for real. This is the call you've been waiting for your whole life. And I'm screwing off.
Yeah, and you're
thinking it's my buddy Nick.
You're thinking it's some kind of a joke, and you're like screwing with the guy back, right?
Yeah. So I go out to Putnam Park and get the ride right away, and was on par with Ron, and learn how to drive this beast of a car. They signed me right then and straight to Petit Le Mans. And then the next year we did a half a season in 2000. And then 2001 started off at Daytona full-time for the next 4 years. And the first race was actually with the Earnhardts, with Dale Sr. and Jr.
Yeah, yep. So that was like a Pratt and Miller deal, right?
That was Pratt. It was all Pratt and Miller. Yeah. And so when I first went on the team, they had Pratt and Miller built the cars, and then they used Riley and Scott as the other car. So I drove the Riley and Scott car with Scott Sharp and Andy Pilgrim.
Wow. So the Rileys were involved in that car. So were they completely different cars? Like, who built the car?
No, same car. The car's built at Pratt & Miller factory car, but they gave it to two different teams because Pratt wasn't ready and set up for it, and Riley had always been, part of the whole thing, and Bob Riley, and it was really fun. It was a great experience. And the coolest thing is that car, I still have that race suit. I mean, it was the black and white GM Goodwrench racing suit, and the car was all black with the silver on it. It looked like Earnhardt's car, and our suits were those suits.
Yeah.
And I went from just this burger flipper at Skip Barber
to the big time.
Porsches, to a phone call that almost lost my ride before I ever even got it, to, big time.
So, it was cool. I mean, you went straight, basically, like you said, you went straight to the big time. This is a huge factory program. Like, what made that team so good? Was it just simply, they just seemed to me like they were always prepared for any scenario that could happen. Anything bad that could happen, they had a plan to execute.
100%. But I'll tell you where it stems from is Doug Feehan and Gary Claudio. And the second I was signed, they put a hat on me, took pictures with a shirt. You are now in the family. You're a family member. You hang out with each other. You do everything together. We weren't forced, but we had to learn everybody's job and what they did and appreciate their job and how their job contributed to the race team. And we weren't just prima donna race car drivers. That was not allowed.
Yeah.
You were part of the team, and everybody, down to the people that did hospitality or the radios on the helmets or everything like that. It was a team effort. And the other thing that I kind of took note of, as sophisticated and trick as these cars are, they were still just a big monster V8 with a drive line to a transaxle in the rear. And they were a Pratt Miller tube chassis car that they, for years, had refined and made. They knew their wizardry. They were magical at building these cars, and they ripped, and they were indestructible, and they were tough as nails.
Yeah, and huge power. They were probably pushing 750 horsepower.
At the beginning, they were basically GT1 cars, and they were 6 liters, and their RPM was like 9,100 RPM.
Yeah, you'd be going at Daytona, Le Mans, you'd be going close to 200 down the straightaway.
The first year we were a little over 203. But what I was going to get at is our fuel mileage kind of stunk.
Yeah.
So they decided to put in a 427 7-liter in the thing. And we had, but it sounds totally different. So we were used to racing like you would like a 125 or a high performance engine car, fast and high RPMs and just really derbing the thing and sliding it to the edge of the corner and all that kind of stuff. And all of a sudden we put this 7-liter in there and it has a restrictor and it's like 500 or 600 foot-pounds of a torque and 600 horsepower. So like you could leave in second gear and just tip in the throttle and just light the tires up.
Wow.
So there was, and our shift limit went from 9100 to
probably
64.
Yeah.
And then the next gear was 63 and then 62 and then 69. I think the fifth to sixth was 5,900 RPM. So it just went,
yeah. So
it wasn't any, so you had to get used to driving this monster.
You went from a 125 to a 500cc bike.
4-stroke, yeah.
Yeah.
It was crazy. The adapting to that was bizarre because the speeds, at Le Mans, you're just watching, the buildings and stuff go by and it's just like,
like a tractor.
It was a tractor. It was a tractor.
So what was it like the first time you met Senior Dale? Because the first time that I met him, it was 92 and I was, just had started in Indy cars and was kind of getting in some skirmishes with Michael Andretti. Mm-hmm. And I went to this, the first NASCAR test at Indianapolis. And I'm walking around the garage with my PR person from Marlboro, and some guy comes up to me, a crew guy, and says, "Hey, Dale wants to see you." I'm like, "Okay." So I go over to the garage and he grabs me by the shoulder and he's like, "Hey, Tracy," he goes, "I like the way you with those Andrettis. Keep it up." So that was the first time I met Dale, because he had a long running feud with Mario. I guess him and Mario didn't get along at all from something that happened in IROC. And then the first time I met Dale Jr., he kind of said the same thing. He goes, "Me and my dad used to watch you in Indy cars because we used to like to see you crash into the Andrettis." He goes, "My dad used to fall off the chair laughing every time."
That is so funny. That sounds like Dale, man. Yeah. So the first time we met was we did a test at Sebring, and him and Junior came down, and I could we talked a bit on Dale's podcast, but I could tell stories forever. But we met and we all circled around, and like I told you about the team thing, and you're one of us, and when the engineers introduced themselves, when everybody was done, he says, "Where's the shock people?" And they're like, "That's the engineers." They call in NASCAR the shock people. But he went out in the car, Dale went out in the car and crashed the car in 3 laps, and they literally just brought it back and rebuilt the whole.
Where was this, in Daytona?
Sebring.
Yeah. Well, Sebring's, Daytona would have been probably a better place for him to start than Sebring, because Sebring has got some really fast, daunting corners, and it's like, it's so easy to crash there.
Oh, yeah. Well, he made it to turn 3, but he later explained it in NASCAR.
Is that right out of the pits?
Right out of the pits. Like,
jeez.
Whoop, 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 whoop. Yeah. And they rebuilt the car in about 30 minutes. So the old man was upset at the kid, and he was really nice to me and Andy had talked to him. That's how this kind of whole thing came to be.
He left the pit, got down to the dog leg and crashed into the dog.
Not even the dog. He turned 3.
Yeah.
I think he lost at the exit 3 and got the outside of 4.
Yeah.
Backed it in. Anyways, he was really bummed. Dale was bummed, upset at him, and he wouldn't really talk that much. But then later on in the day, Dale was going down the back straightaway and went to go from 5th to 4th, and he got second and locked up the rear tires and backed that car in hard down at the end down into turn 17 at Sebring.
Oh. Fast.
Oh, yeah. So Junior was just like, yeah, my dad crashed too. And we said, "We're going to come get you." And he goes, "No." And he gets reverse and is driving it down pit lane backwards. And all he could see is his mustache and his mic like this going, looking in the mirrors, and the car's crabbing. The wheels are doing this. And He brings it right down there and he goes, I'm sorry, everything I did. He goes, everything that's broken on the back of this car, make a pile of it, send it to the shop. I'll sign every one of those pieces of yellow carbon fiber. And he did. He raised like $52,000 and sent it to the team, to Pratt Miller. But anyways, Dale was really funny. But I was supposed to be in the number 2 car, which was Ron Fellows, Chris Neifel, me, and I think it was going to be Frank Freon. And all of a sudden, we're driving, and Andy and I are putting in some laps, and Dale walks up to me in the pits, and kind of like the way he grabbed your lapel, he just goes, boom, just nudges me like that. And I go, hey, what's up? And he goes, you're the same size as me and my boy. I go, yeah. He goes, you want to drive with us? He goes, I've been watching your lap times. And I go, well, Dale, it's not up to me. It's up to the doctor, which is Doug.
Yeah.
And he goes, you ashamed to drive with me? And I go, no, I didn't say that at all. I go, I just can't make that decision. He goes, I'll take care of it. He goes right over, 5 minutes later, comes back over. He goes, your teammates with me now. Just like that. So then that left an open position in the other car, right?
Yeah.
Because I was going to be in another car. And that's when Johnny O got hired on.
Wow. So
he ended up, they won the race. We finished second. We were never expected to win, but Dale took this very seriously. I mean, he was serious about the whole thing. And we had a ball.
If you like this show, hit the like and subscribe button at the bottom and drop us a comment. If you want any guests, special guests, let us know who you want and we'll try to get them on. So I heard you say on Dale Jr.'s podcast and Doug said that he really wanted to do more endurance racing as his career was winding down. And then obviously what happened, he ended up getting killed at Daytona. But I mean, I from what I understand, he really enjoyed the endurance racing.
Right. So I'll tell you 2 stories that I didn't say on there, but it's 24 years later, and not like I can get in trouble and whatever, but we're changing in the back of the truck one day, and he said, what's with those K-Tech motors? The exhaust pipes are like black. And he goes, they should look like a freshly, barbecued or, marshmallow after you blow it out.
Yeah.
And I go, well, just Andy and I are like, well, that's just the way they want to run it. And he goes, well, and then he's like, these Goodyear tires suck. He goes, I'm going to have them build me when I go to Le Mans with you two, we're going to run under DEI as a 3rd Corvette, you, Andy, and me, and we're going to go to Le Mans, and we're going to run K-Tech motors in our car, and we're going to have Goodyear make us the best tires they can make. And we're like, well, how are you going to do that? And he goes, I can do anything I want. He goes, I'll just tell them. And I go, but they're going to be upset if you tell them. He goes, what are they going to do? Fire me? That's what he did. He's firing me. He was crazy, man. He did some really funny things. And he knew almost every race fan. I'm not kidding. And if anybody touched the car, he yelled at him. He said, you stay off that car, like during the autograph session or when we're getting ready to start. He was larger than life and a character. I mean, and he did have plans. And he even, if you watch that podcast, Dale confirms it. He liked my personality. And he goes, you'd be good in NASCAR. And he goes, I'm starting up a truck team at DEI. And he goes, I'd like you to drive for me. And once again, I'm like, well, I don't know about that because that's like 37 weekends a year, and I'm like, I like going to the river and boating and surfing and all this other stuff. And he goes, well, you'd have to get a coach and you'd have to be at the racetrack all the time and they're going to love you. And I'll teach you how to drive in ovals. And just like that, Dale died and everything ended. The one thing he did honor, he told Ron Fellows and Andy Pilgrim that he was going to put them in nationwide cars for, I think, Most Sport and maybe Sears Point for Ron, and then Montreal for Andy. Andy almost won Montreal. He finished second. I mean, like 3 feet, almost won.
So your Corvette deal starts to wind down there, and then you kind of transition into still GM program with Pontiac, and you spent 5-6 years driving a Pontiac and winning lots of races in Grand Am.
Yeah. And very similar to, I was replacing a guy that had shoulder surgery, and me and Court Wagner were driving a Doran Lexus. I was the first guy to ever lead a lap for Toyota at Daytona for Michael Shank. And next thing you know, just like when I was at Porsche,
What
the
what
third
year
race,
what year was that in? Because I was
2000,
I was
2004.
I was bouncing around in some Grand Am stuff driving.
You were with Borkowski down at Mexico City.
I was just gonna say, because I drove with Mike, our buddy Mike.
Yeah.
We need to get him on this podcast. But the problem,
it would take 23 hours.
The problem with Mike is once he starts talking, he never stops talking. Right?
You can't stop him. So when you stop him, you ask him a different question, and then he goes, "Oh, I'll answer that one and get back to the one you just talked about." It's crazy. Yeah, it's pretty funny.
What do you call it? The circle. You ask him, and then you start moving around in a circle around him.
So I have this thing about, and Mike, if you see this, you're hearing it for the first time, but it's very funny. It's called Get Mike Borkowski to Do a Circle. So when you're talking to him, he's just there and he keeps talking, and you just slowly keep moving, like you're just standing and with a witness, and you get him to do a full 360. And then you're in the 360 club with the Mike Borkowski 360 rule.
So I started running I ran Grand Am in, I think I was in a Doran in 2004 with Fittipaldi at Daytona. Maybe ran another race, and then I think in 05 or 06 I drove with Shank with Mike, and that was a Toyota Riley then.
Toyota Riley at the time, yeah. He left Doran. Didn't you have a crash in the last turn at Mexico?
No, we finished on the podium in Mexico.
No, I meant in the first practice or something like that.
I think I did crash at
I can't remember that.
And that Parabolica turn.
Yeah,
because we went in
there. That's when I first met you with Mike. Yeah. That was like 2005, I guess. I was in the Pontiac.
Yeah, I don't remember how we qualified there, but I know we raced well, and I got into a huge wheel banging match I was passing Max Angelelli down the straightaway, and I'm like just going by him, and then he started beating on the side of my car, just like bang, 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 bang. I'm like, what is this guy doing? Right? It was right towards the end of the race, and I think he was teamed up with Andy Wallace.
Andy Wallace. Yeah.
Andy Wallace was driving with him. So I passed him with a couple laps to go for the podium. And I remember Mike, he was like totally jazzed about it because he'd been driving with a gentleman driver, and it was just like it's how it is driving with gentlemen.
He'd get in the car and go just as fast, but be a lap down.
Yeah.
It's funny about Max Angelelli. He was a factory GM driver as well. He drove the prototype Cadillacs.
Yeah.
And you can ask, they got upset at us if we ever had contact with anybody. Not like when I drove at BMW. I forgot to throw that in there. Oh, no, that comes up. But anyways, he would hit us. He hit me all the time. Max would hit me. He'd just dive bomb me. Like, it didn't matter where I was. I'm like, here that dude comes again. I didn't want to say it, but I hate that guy. He's probably my biggest enemy on the racetrack, and I never raced in the same class as him. And all he did, and he's hitting factory to factory cars.
Yeah.
He never stayed out of us. I don't know what Wayne was telling him over there, but he never got in trouble for anything.
Yeah.
So anyways, I started driving Dorans, and then Bill Oberlin, my good buddy, he got me a ride in the BMWs. And I drove BMWs for 2 years in Grand Am with a gentleman driver, but it was with the factory team, and we did good. And I got 40% of the prize money. So instead of your car breaks at the beginning, it gives you an incentive to get back up to like 5th or 4th or something like that. Because when you're, but that was cool. And then I got a call to drive for GM again. So I'm really the only factory GM driver to ever be fired and rehired. And I drove another 5 years the Pontiac in Grand Am, and we won a championship in a lot of races over there.
Yeah.
In the GXP. That's pretty cool.
So you're doing coaching now. You're
a little bit
doing what you love, and I mean, a lot of people don't know, and I didn't know this until you told me that you're involved with your shirt there, Maglock, which is you're involved with some motorsports company that makes some pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, I'll tell you about it real quick. A lot of people know about Maglock. It's a magnetic connection. It started with air hoses to the driver. Instead of squishing it off or it falls off during a race, it's a magnetic connection. And since then, it's gone to what we have. We have a full water system now that goes through the line to our own thing called an aquacom, where the water is in the comm and it can't get water into the mic and short the mic out. And we're thinking about using that for military, like helicopter pilots that can't take their hands off, forestry, firefighters, cops, all that kind of stuff, motorcycle cops. And then now we have a backpack that fills itself automatically back to where it needs to be. And it's a magnetic connection as well, with a thing that looks just like this that squirts water, and it's Bluetooth. So you can, set it to squirt once every 2 minutes, or do it manually, or whatever you want, in the race car, in a helicopter, on your bicycle, on your motocross bike. Enduros, we're coming out with a backpack called the Katara. So it's all really neat stuff. It's taken a while to get off the ground. We're in every Indy car.
Yeah,
right now.
I mean, I know the first guys that started to use it when I saw it come out. I remember Herta started using it, and then a couple other guys caught on it. But what it really does is like you basically program it to give you water when you time it out, right? So
that's correct.
I mean, the problem with driving a race car is that once you're thirsty, it's too late.
It's too late.
Yeah, it's too late. So this is like almost like a drip system. It's like giving you program
just like
it,
an
right?
IV.
So explain how it works.
So it's just like a drip. You can set it however you want. Like I learned how to do this on the front straightaway. I just always pop the button a little bit, but I'd hydrate like crazy and then go to the bathroom and then get, not drink anything for 45 minutes in the race car. And then the second, every lap on start finish, I'd do that. But some people didn't figure that out. And like you said, if you get thirsty in the car, you're done. And so this is called Fluid Logic, which is with the Maglock. And it's got a neat little pump. The guys at IndyCar didn't like our pump, so we made it smaller. It's only like 3 ounces, and they were still complaining about that. Weight on power to weight ratio. I'm like, this is crazy. But
come on, you just put a 200-pound windscreen on the highest point of the car, and you're worried about a 3-ounce pump, right?
Exactly. But everybody else has it. But that windscreen is what made them come to us. And because of the G loads, you probably know this, instead of the magnetic connection being on top of the helmet, magnet to magnet, it's just the hose off the helmet, and the magnet goes all the way down and attaches in the race car. So there's not as much weight on the head and the helmet, through the corners. But apparently that thing gets hotter than hell inside. Those guys better than I do. But just because it's an open top, there's nothing that's happening there.
Well,
very much like our boats.
I've talked to some guys, and obviously some say it's hot, some say it's not. Like compared to a front engine car like the Corvette you drove. Like I talked to Jimmy Johnson because he came in right at the windscreen at the beginning. And everybody was saying, "Oh my God, it's so hot, it's so hot." And I talked to Jimmy. I'm like, "Is it hot in that thing?" He's like, "No, it's not compared to a NASCAR. It's not hot." So it's all relative, right? In the cars you were driving, I mean, you told me it's just the Corvette was insanely hot inside.
Insanely hot. The header and the exhaust goes by your left side at the very beginning. Then you had that Hewland gearbox at the beginning, right next to you. You couldn't even. If you take your glove off when you get out of the car and touch the shift lever, it's scalding hot.
Yeah, just burn your hand.
The glue melted out of my race shoes, and my heel on my throttle, going back and forth, was sticking to the sole while I was racing. And I'd have to actually, instead of, I'd have to lift up and pull it over, and it was sticking to the floorboard because the glue got so hot. Ron Fellows ran those, the dragster guys have, the big silver heel covers. He ran those. And I think one time we recorded like 161 in the car.
Yeah. I mean,
it was horrible. It was horrible. But, when they say, "How you doing?" You're like, "Great, man." Because I knew like Scott Pruitt was waiting to get in the seat anytime that I wasn't there, take my ride. So I'm like, "Oh, it's great." That kind of stuff.
I feel great. You're great, dying.
Man. I'm just a burger flipper for you guys. Yeah. It was hilarious. Yeah. But it was a lot of fun, but it was hot at the beginning. We were kind of like the test mules for that whole, but now they have air conditioned seats. The series requires if they monitor the temperature in every car. And if it goes over a certain amount, you get a penalty, or you have to come in and fix it.
Well, do you think
it's like 85 or 90 degrees.
Do you think the new age drivers now, you think they're soft compared to the old school guys?
So easy, a caveman can do it. It's a Geico commercial. I mean, faster, slower, ABS, traction control. It kind of takes the fun out of it. And I hate to say this, and somebody will harp me about it, but what made auto racing so interesting is it was a daredevil sport.
Yeah.
People could die. Things happened. You had friends that died. I had friends that died. And over the last 30 years, the safer barriers, the Hans device, the wraparound, all there to save and be protective to the drivers. That's great. But then racecraft has gone out the deal. Gentlemen, like wheel to wheel, and then it's your corner. People just dive bomb people, take them out, and they just like this, and
Yeah,
they rebuild a car.
you look at racing now across the board, and you watch. You see guys that the driver conduct, I think, is far worse than it used to be, because I don't think people think they can get hurt anymore. Because of the Hans devices and the seats and the head restraints, and the cars are safer, and you got impact foam.
That's what I'm saying.
GT cars in the side, and Indy cars.
Yeah.
You got the windscreen. I don't think anybody thinks that they can really get hurt anymore. So the conduct of what is acceptable and not acceptable has gone to the extreme.
Well, when you think about it, in the older days when fuel tanks and people caught on fire, there were consequences. You dive bomb somebody and they go off and get hurt or killed. You got to live with that, or you get killed or whatever. I mean, there used to be consequences. So there was internal human rules that kept you from doing some of this stuff that is going on now. And now it's wide open. And that's why I say it's a different sport today than it was even 15 years ago.
Well, I watch everything, and I call you all the time or message you. Oh my God, did you see this or that? And you don't even hardly watch racing anymore. You're always telling me, I'm watching Supercross. So.
I'm watching Supercross or outdoor. Yeah, I love it.
Who's your favorite guy right now in Super? Who do you like? Who's your guy?
Oh, in Supercross, it'd be hard not to say Jet Lawrence, but I mean, you got to look at Sexton, and actually, I take that back. My favorite guy is Tomac.
Well, you
should have him on your show.
He's my neighbor. He lives next door to me now.
Oh, did he move from up? He's got a house there too, and one in Cortez.
He lives in Colorado in the summer, but he was just here last week. I was riding bicycles with him last week
That's awesome.
He is so flipping strong. It's like retarded.
Yeah, dude, he's an animal. You should have him on your show, man.
I'm going to, but he built a house literally 200 yards away from my house, and
wow.
And so when he broke his leg, it was crazy. He broke his leg at the Supercross.
You mean the ankle? Yeah.
Yeah, he broke broken tibia, and he went into the medical unit, and they took an X-ray, and they're like, it looks fine to us. And he rode the heat race and the main with a broken leg.
That's right.
And then realized that something's not right here. But
he's been around for a long time. He's tough.
a super good kid, and tough as nails. So
That's funny that we call 32-year-olds kids.
Yeah.
Those little whippersnappers. Yeah. But he's probably my favorite one. But it's fun being a fan of something else other than being in a sport where you have fans. Does that make sense?
Well, that's kind of like where you started, right? You're into where you started.
I was a fan.
You started on motocross, and you still love motocross.
Yeah. One day I think at Sears Point, the race teams at the Tom Gloy had Ron Fellows was driving for Tom Gloy, and they have an hour and a half at lunch every day, all the people that are at the track, the race shops. And I was sitting there eating my lunch, and I knew that Ron Fellows was coming out to test the Trans Am car. I didn't know him. I'm sitting there looking at him in the race car, and 4 years later, we're teammates.
Yeah.
I had no idea. And I was just like, I was kind of like still that little kid at the racetrack that was just oohing and ahhing that I'd love to be there someday.
Yeah.
And just by sheer accident, and Doug putting up with me thinking that he was Nick for so long, here I am. Yeah.
Well, we're out of time because this is a made for TV, but I'll be out there in probably 2 weeks. So I'll definitely call you before I come out.
All right. And I just want to say, sometimes tell your fans, if they don't know it, that like you introduced me all the time that I was Dale Earnhardt's friend. Yeah. And you were and I said, yeah, but you impressed me because you tested at Firebird with Ayrton Senna in the Penske cars. So I don't know if they all know that, but it'd be fun for you to tell them that sometime.
All right.
All right, dude. Okay. All right. Take care.
All right. Thanks, brother.